Interesting. So, well, again, let's talk.
But that's great news for you, Maria.
Oh, I'm waiting for it, Mon. I mean, Rappler is built for that time.
Because that means that the news and media business is going to be much more interactional.
And more personal.
More personal and more immediate.
Correct, correct. But let me ask you again, infrastructure-wise, when I look at the rankings of where we stand globally, last year we were at 101 of all the countries in the world. How can you make our services better?
Okay, that's a real challenge, Maria, because we're in the industry, in industry parlance, we're a low ARPU market. I think.
Explain, because not everybody will know what ARPU means.
The average income per subscriber, of in this market is relatively low. We're $5 or less, while other markets, let's say Singapore, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Thailand, they're much higher than ours.
So the telcos and those companies make more per user than they do here, right?
That means for operators like us,
yes,
we've got to be much more creative in how do we offer services that are relevant and useful for our customers so they'll actually use it. Now, one thing we've discovered is that, you know, once you present the internet to customers in ways that they will understand and in ways that inspires confidence in the way they use it, they will actually use the internet. We have a service delivery platform that we call SmartNet, which has a number of features. One of the features that it has is that with a single button,
yes,
you can turn off all your internet services. I mean, everything off.
So people can control their bills.
Yes.
Okay.
The idea is to give people a sense of control.
Yes.
That when they want to use the internet, they can do so. When they don't want to use the internet, they can actually do so in a very convenient way. Young kids can do it themselves because they can figure out their phones. But for older people who are migrating from feature phones, that can be a very unsettling experience. You don't really know whether your internet is off or not.
Correct.
But with SmartNet, you can turn everything off in one button. And you know the fascinating thing we've discovered is that when people know that they can control the internet use, they actually use the internet more.
So by giving them that control, more Filipinos can access the internet through their mobile phones, through SmartNet.
They have greater confidence that they can actually use it in a way that, you know, that will fit their budget.
Yes, yes.
And at the same time, they can choose the services that they really want to use.
Let me ask you again about the demographics on the internet. I've seen statistics where it actually shows that the people on the internet mirror the people our real-life demographics. So what is the digital divide? If you have about the same proportion of masa, of DE on the internet and on social media, what's the digital divide? Is it because most of the DE will access it through the internet cafes? I mean, what are people talking about when they talk digital divide?
Well, there still is a substantial number of people who don't have direct access to the internet. Even those, for example, who access the internet cafes. Okay. Because the broadband internet access is not penetrating for all areas. So you still have some areas that don't have that kind of...
How large? How many of those areas? 20%, 30%? Or
I don't have the number right now, but because it keeps changing.
Yes, yes.
It's getting smaller and smaller.
Yes.
Because the networks are reaching out farther and farther and getting faster and faster. But I think the point is that the other element of the digital divide is income.
Okay.
Because, you know, at the end of the day, you still have to pay for internet access in one way or the other. So how do you make it more affordable, at the same time physically more accessible to more people? That's the challenge. But like I said earlier, Maria, it's good news for people like you because the trends are headed in that direction.
No, I think you will
see more and more people accessing the internet.
I want to just give you some of the reactions. You asked the question about the young people. So from Clea Francis, she wrote, "Pera." I think the reaction of what do the people want? Well, even though my vote may vote buying, we youngsters are still responsible enough to vote for the right people. And then from Qtos, the questions, what do the young people want for these elections? You asked that. He said, a promise that our voice and opinions will never go unheard. I'm jumping off again. I mean, very vibrant, lots of people commenting on it. What's the difference between today and the internet, social media 5 years ago? I mean, the quality of discourse. We talked about this a little bit. It's more chaotic. Are the trolls taking over? That's another big debate of people who are on social media.
Okay. Well, it's certainly more rambunctious and much more lively and active. Okay. I remember.
You're so diplomatic, lively and active.
No, because
Is there meaning in it?
unfortunately, there's a lot of trash.
Okay.
But like I said, that's life. You get the good and the bad.
Yes.
You go around. It's very hard. A board of sensors doesn't work in life.
Correct.
So you get everything together in one package. It's really up to people to sort out what is real and not real. And that's why I kept harping on people developing critical judgment. Because at the end of the day, that's what's going to happen. That is what will make the difference. And I'm hoping that, through activities like Vote Smart, and we encourage people to use their discernment, to think about it, to stop and think. Because what tends to happen is sometimes the herd mentality takes over. You just go here and you just go there, depending on what is the trend.
Well, what's interesting is you can see, I'm a believer in the wisdom of crowds, but I've also seen the wisdom of crowds turn into a lynch mob. And, well, one of the victims obviously was Chris Lau.
Oh, yes.
And Chris Lau, the guy from Channel, who was, I'm not going to name the network, but the guy who said he was cyberbullied, and he actually talked about wanting to commit suicide. Well, I mean, these are real-world impact of actions online.
That's true. But, it cuts both ways.
Yeah.
That's why people need to learn how to deal with social media also. The off button is one of the most important tools that you have in social media. There are times when you need to cut off, when it doesn't make sense anymore, when it doesn't help you, that you just keep connected. There are times when you need to do that. And there are the times when you need to be absolutely connected. And that's part of the discernment thing that I'm talking about, Maria. I mean, people, I get asked by executives, how to use mobile phones, and this was many years ago, and I still get asked that question from time to time. And I tell them one of the things that you have to learn is when to turn the damn thing off.
Oh, yes.
Okay? Because you need, executives need quiet time to think. There's nothing in your schedule. It's free time.
Yes.
And you need to carve that out of your day. And part of carving that thing out of your day is to either give your phone to your secretary or to your colleagues so that you're not, because otherwise it'll keep, intruding into your time, into your mind.
But kids today don't seem to think you need that time for solitude. I mean, and that's another generational gap.
Yeah, I'm asking myself, is that a generation gap issue, or have kids been able to adapt to this kind of situation? I really don't know. But my sense is that, I'm old-fashioned in that sense.
Yes.
Everybody, young and old, needs a bit of quiet time.
Yes.
Because otherwise you get lost in the crowd. You can't hear yourself thinking. So I think that's one of the advice I could give young kids today. There are times when you need to put it away.
Yes.
I wish I could practice that more often.
Me too. Actually, it can take over your life. At least that's what we've found in Rapper.
Yes, it does.
We live on this.
Yes, it does.
Well, partly because, again, I talk about this all the time, the emotions of being online also drives you. And part of the reason I think it's more chaotic at times.
Well, I think it would be interesting to have neurologists and neuroscientists study this phenomenon, because behavior impacts you physically.
Correct. Yes.
So it can change the way your neurons are connected. And I think this is a really interesting area of study, scientific study moving forward. How people's brains are being wired differently because they are connecting with other people in different ways.
It's true, and it is. There are studies now. Stanford has done several of them that show physically we're being changed, our brains are being rewired. But we can talk about this forever. Let me bring you back to elections. What's at stake for SMART in these elections? Is there anything at stake for you guys?
Well, it's the same as everybody else in this country. I mean, I think it's in the interest of SMART as a company and people as individuals that the elections are held peacefully.
Yep.
That they reflect the real will of the people, both in the national constituencies as well as local constituencies, and that it's done in a way that encourages more confidence in the process.
In the system, yeah.
Because there are of course differing opinions about the wisdom of this or that course of action or this or that kind of technology. Well, these debates will have to be, and arguments will have to be settled as part of the process. But what we would like to see is that the process is done correctly and that it reflects the real will of people. we were discussing offhand earlier that there's this saying that people get the government that they deserve.
Yes.
And I was telling you earlier that there's something unfair and at the same time relevant about that statement. Unfair because there's a tendency it can be interpreted,
yes,
or misinterpreted as putting all the blame or the responsibility on the electorate. And I think there's an element of truth to that observation. But also we have to admit that there is a certain element of validity to that observation too.
Yes.
In the sense that, well, this may sound very cruel, but there's a Darwinian logic at work here. Meaning, if a country or a community is unable to foster and develop a process that will enable them to select the right leaders for their community or for their country, then they have to pay for it. I mean, right or wrong,
which we frankly have. This
fair or unfair,
yeah,
that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
So I think that I think the wisdom or the insight that we can draw for that is people need to be involved. Because at the end of the day, if something wrong happens to this country because not the right people are put in office, then, well, whether we did something or not, we pay for it.
Yes, yes. Last question on this one is, all the issues of elections have remained the same since 1986. I mean, you're still talking about dynasties, you're talking about vote buying. PPCRV says that 2010 elections moved from retail vote buying, tingi-tingi, to wholesale barangay, buying entire barangays.
Okay.
So people are selling their votes on social media. The kids, the young guys, and I hope you guys are going to stick to this, say they won't sell their votes, but these problems have been there forever, through our generation.
Okay.
Technology is now a factor. Do you think there's a possibility? I guess, is there a chance these problems can be solved with technology?
Well, yes and no. I mean, technology does give you the ability to do certain things that would simply have not been possible before. For example, if you wanted to report something happening that was anomalous or wrong in a situation, the tools are there.
Yes, the tools are there.
And the tools are there for people to report this, and it can get to the right people actually literally in seconds.
Correct.
And you can put a photo on it. In fact, with the right technologies, you can put a timestamp, a location stamp on it so that it's authenticated.
So the question there is, do you have the courage to do it?
Because at the end of the day, technology is great, but at the end of the day, it's people who matter. So it's whether our people, young or old, use the technologies in ways that will help create a process that yields a much better and fairer result. That's the question.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. We've been speaking with Mon Isberto. He is on Twitter. You can continue sending your questions to him. His Twitter handle is @MonIsberto. We just spoke about the May 2013 elections, the role of technology, and the Vote Smart campaign. We all have a share. We all have a stake in this. Vote Smart. I'm Maria Ressa. Thank you for joining us.